Hi. Hello. I was just thinking, actually, it was about 20 years ago that I rang Jimmy up and I said, look, there's this old building that's for sale. Why don't we go and have a look at this building? I'd been in to see it already. It was this building. I guess about 20 years. Would that be about right? Maybe more. Oh, sorry, man. I've got to stay in. Right. Where's the other one? Oh, that one, right, okay. Right, sorry. Hi, Muriel. Sorry, you're not here today. That's my wife, by the way. She should be listening, if she remembers or watching. Yeah, so it was about 20 years ago, and so I said, Jimmy, we got to go and see this place. It really could be our next church. And I remember, God forgive me, but we broke in because we couldn't get hold of the agent, and we were wandering around this building. The water was pouring. I don't know if you remember, Jimmy. The roof was leaking, and then we heard somebody in the building, so we hid in some cupboard. I mean, Jimmy and I hid in a cupboard so nobody would catch us. And here we are, 20-odd years later. We're here, and it's great. Really lovely to be with you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm sure some of you don't know me. My name is Adrian. I have 3 daughters. I always say this when I go around to churches. I have 3 daughters, 4 grandchildren, 1 wife, and 1 dog. And I love my dog. And I was 16 when I got saved. And I think I preached when I was 16 or 17. Do you remember these days? We were in Chapel Street, banging our tambourines and singing, when the roll will be called up yonder, we'll be there. Oh dear, these were the days. And I have to say to you, the reason I tell you that is that I've been working with Compassion for just over 3 years now. And what I believe I do, the opportunity to go around and speak to churches, kind of feels the most important thing I've ever done. Now, it's not to say that all those years of preaching from 16 to 63 haven't been important, but it's a privilege for me to go out around the churches of Scotland and the north of England every Sunday, most Sundays, and share about the work of Compassion. And I do that with a kind of heavy heart, because I believe I have a responsibility to share the needs. I think something like 256 million children who are living in adverse poverty right now. 256 million. How do we comprehend that number? 100 times the capital of Scotland, I guess. Wow, that's how many children are in poverty in the world. But I'm here to speak about the one child, because it begins with the one child. It begins with this little girl from Haiti called Rose Cathy. She's 9 years old. It begins with the opportunity that I have, to implore the church when I go out on Sundays to release her from poverty. I'm reading a book that actually Aaron recommended to me, The Power of Moments it's called. And it made me just realize how important each moment is. The decisions we make, the implication of the decisions we make. And it's funny when I go to churches and I share, and people are all nodding their heads saying, oh, that's terrible. And then some of those people, and this is not condemnation, but some of them walk by me at the end and put their head down. Maybe they feel a little bit bad, but I want to grab hold of them and say, hey, just take a moment. Because the moment you can take right now can impact a life, can change a life, can change a family, can change a community. And it's quite amazing, because when we sponsor a child, we don't just sponsor that child, we impact the family. And we actually impact the community. You know, we read in Acts 4 about that they preached the word and they shared the possessions as everyone had need. And people say to me, well, if you only sponsor one child per family, what happens to the rest of the family? What happens to the community? You see, you've got to understand, in developing countries, they don't build fences like we build fences between our houses. They knock fences down. You know, we get our little kind of windfall or our little present, and we kind of hold on to it deeply, and we take care of it. We're not going to share it with nobody. But in the countries that we work in, when people have something, they share it. It's not our culture. We build a fence, 6-foot fence around our garden so nobody can get in. In developing countries, they just knock these fences down and they share their lives with each other. Isn't that a tremendous testimony of the gospel? Anyway, I want to read to you from the book of Matthew 5. It's up there, and it says here, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." How many people have heard that verse so many times as Christians? I want to implore you today to just kind of try and hear these verses as if you've never heard them before. It says in verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way," verse 16, "let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." You know, when I was very young, I used to dream, and I still do dream this sometimes. I used to dream that I could fly. I don't mean getting on a jet and flying, but that I could actually just take off and fly. Has anybody ever had a dream like that before? Please tell me I'm not the only person that's dreamt like that before. And I still have that dream, and I'm not a dream interpreter, but there's something about, in this dream, about just taking off and kind of flying through the air and maybe arriving in Skye or Shetland or whatever, and then mustering all this power again and taking off and coming back home. They're some of the most enjoyable dreams. But as a kid, I actually thought I would have special powers. I did actually believe that I could do things that other people couldn't do. I believed that I had the kind of Superman, but I didn't tell anybody, in case they thought it was a bit strange. But I do remember once when I was, I think 12 or 13, I got lost, and this is a true story. And I remember the scripture. Actually, it might be more like 16, because I wouldn't have known the scriptures then. But I remember the scripture where it says in, I think it's Acts 8, where it says that Philip was with the Ethiopian eunuch. You know that passage where he was preaching to the Ethiopian eunuch and he baptized him. And then it said, the Spirit of the Lord snatched Philip away, and he found himself, I think it was Azotus. And I thought, I'm a bit of a Trekkie. I'm a bit of Scotty beam me up. I'm thinking, I might be able to do this if Philip can get beamed up and snatched and find himself. This is true. So I climbed into this bush not far from where I was standing, and this is true, and I closed my eyes, and I said, "Lord, could you do what you did to Philip and transport me so I can get home?" And so it was a bit windy, and then the wind died, and it was silent. And I opened my eyes, and I hadn't moved one single inch. But actually, I did think I could do it. And so I really did think I had special powers. And I always remember when I was a kid, I had one of these things. I don't know if anybody had one of these when they were a kid, if I can find it. I just believed that if I put my cape on, I could do amazing things. And then I grew up. And I realized it was true. I could do amazing things. Why could I do amazing things? Because I had the Spirit of God within me. I could do amazing things. That I could put this cape on, which my daughters dared me not to wear today. Dad, you're not really going to take that to the church today. Oh, yes, I am. But I realized that I did have special powers. And you know one of the things I realized I could do? I realized I could change the weather. Oh, my goodness me, if only we had that ability in Scotland to change the weather. So really, I can't change the weather, but I can change somebody's weather. I can impact somebody's life. Can you think of a time when you've had the ability as a person of God to change somebody's life? I remember when we were not many years married, I got a tax rebate, and there was a lady in our street who was a believer, but she was in quite difficult financial situation. And Muriel, my wife, said, we need to give that money to that lady. And I said, well, when the Lord speaks to me about that, we'll do it. But he hasn't told me yet. But she was right. And so I remember changing that tax return into cash and putting it in a brown envelope and sneaking by the lady's house about 11 o'clock at night and slipping it through her door. Now, she didn't go to our church, but she was a believer, and we knew she was praying about a situation in her life. So we put the money through the door, and we just sat back and watched. And we watched her blossom. And we watched her. It was just fun. It was fun realizing that we had the ability, because we had been given a tax rebate, to impact her life. And she just knew that God had answered her prayers. See, we are the salt of the earth. What do we use salt for? We are the salt of the earth. That's what Jesus said. We're the salt of the earth. Well, we use salt on cooking. I like salt. I use a lot of salt on my wife's. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't really use it on my wife's cooking, but I like a lot of salt on things that are made for me. So it changes the flavor. What else does salt do? Well, it sterilizes. Well, we're the salt of the earth. We can bring cleanliness in the midst of unrighteousness. And it preserves. And we can bring hope where there's decay. You are the salt of the earth. I am the salt of the earth. It says that we are the light of the world. Well, what does light do? Well, light dispels darkness. Listen, folks, I know you know all this, but just look at me as if you've never heard it before, because I need to hear this every day in my life. I need to get up every day and realize that I'm the light that can make a difference. What does light do? Well, it dispels darkness. What's darkness? Well, this is not a big, deep theological talk today, but it's enough to say that there are people today who are living in darkness, who are living in poverty, because they're living in fear and they're living in hopelessness. And you and I, in our lives, have the ability to take this light, which is the Holy Spirit within us, and go to somebody and shine hope in the midst of darkness. Isn't it that so easy to do? You've got to understand that many people in developing countries don't even know that there is a light, and don't even know if someone's going to switch the light on. I'll tell you a story about when I was about 8 or 9. And it's funny, I only remembered this story when I was preparing this wee message. When I was about 8 or 9, my father took me up Mount Snowdon. Anybody been up Snowdonia before, up Mount Snowdon? Aaron, you must have. You've been up every mountain. Anybody been up Snowdon in Wales? Joyce, you've been up there. Dave and Helen, you've been up there. Well, I think there used to be, or there is, a kind of train thing that would take you up. I just remember that as a kid. But we went up on some apparatus that took us to the top of Snowdon. And my father decided we'd walk back down Snowdon. But he kind of got his timing a little bit wrong. And it got dark, and we weren't even a quarter of the way down. And I can remember as a kid seeing, or what I could see of my father, seeing the fear on his face. Because I think he thought we were going to fall off the edge of the cliff. Because we could not see the road, we could not see the footpath, and we were doing that. Man, we could have been 200-meter drop, just 2 feet from where we were standing. And we did not know what to do. It was so black. It was so dark. And I didn't know what we were going to do. And suddenly, this vehicle came from around the corner. I mean, honestly, it was Jesus. I don't know, it was literally Jesus, but it was like it was Jesus, because suddenly the whole area was floodlit, and we could see the road, and we could see the path, and we were saved, and we got back on the path. I'll never forget that. I was 8 or 9, but it had a profound impact because I was gripped with fear because we were in darkness, and then I saw this light. 1 John 1:5 says this: the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness shall not cover it. The light shines in the darkness. That tells me that the absence of the light means that darkness prevails. And as Aaron was praying and talking this morning, we're talking about the church, about this church, about our history, about our destiny. I have to say that we are the light. We are the people that are going to take this message out and share it with so many people in darkness today. It's us. God doesn't have a plan B. It's you and me. It's you and me that stands up and chooses to be light in the midst of darkness. I wake up every day now as I work with Compassion. It's a privilege to do what I do. I love going to the church. I'm out probably about 35, 40 Sundays a year with Compassion, and I love every single minute of it. Why? Because I believe I go with special powers. I believe I go with the ability to be an ambassador as though God were making his appeal through me. And these verses in Colossians, before I show you a few slides before I finish, it says this in Colossians 3, verse 10 to 14. And put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge and the image of its creator. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion. Clothe yourself with kindness. Clothe yourself with humility, and clothe yourself with gentleness and patience. Verse 13, bear with each other and forgive one another if anyone has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. The challenge today, folks, is whether we sponsor a child or not, whether we leave this place and do whatever we have to do, that we recognize that we have the opportunity to clothe ourselves, to use these superhuman powers that God has given us, the Spirit of God, and to move in a situation. Aaron spoke about the power of prayer and the challenge that's always been there between those that are healed and those that go to glory. I don't know the answers. We too lost our son, our first child, but I knew God was in it. And as unbelievable it is to say that, I can say it now, that God made a way and we had 3 beautiful girls, even though we lost our first son. But I know God was in it. And I know God is in the hearts of every single person here. And when I go out, privileged as I am to go into the field, I don't know if you can put the first slide up, please, girls. When I go out to the field, I was in Uganda just before lockdown. And I go there thinking, honestly, I think I've got superhuman powers, because I honestly believe that God could use me to make a difference in these children's lives. How can that be? Well, it could be just praying for them, playing with them. These kids, these boys, all of these boys were looking for a sponsor when I was there. And they were fixated with my hair. I mean, they just thought it was candy floss or something. They would be touching my hair because it was soft and it was kind of whitey gray. And they were like having shots at just touching my hair. I thank God I had some hair for them to touch. But it was such a privilege to be with these children. God has used this church to change the lives of You look at the next slide. And the next one, please. Of 38 children. Oh my goodness me. Just listen to this. 38 children have been released from poverty as a result of the response of people in this congregation. 38 families have been impacted. Communities that these children represent have been changed because of the congregation and friends and members of the Vine Church. Just take a moment to think of that for a moment. That we've responded to Rose Cathy, people like her, and released her from poverty and changed her life forever. I always sort of joke that, for me to sponsor a child, it works out to around about 3 Costa coffees a week. I'm a bit of a coffee drinker. It's not a hardship for me. It's not a hardship for most of us that we can invest a little bit of our money, that we could take the moment that we're in and to change the world of one child. Can we see the next picture? I'll just run through some of these slides. Yeah, we're in 5 countries, the church, predominantly in Haiti, but Ecuador, Tanzania, Uganda, and Togo. The next slide. And there are where the children are that we sponsor. And the next slide. It tells us that 139 letters have gone back and forward between beneficiaries and sponsors. And if you do write letters, I encourage you to continue doing it. If you do not write letters, please, 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 I encourage you to do it. It is so, so important. I was at there's an event that runs in Princess Street for the Church Scotland Court, and I think it's called Life and Soul, or Heart and Soul. Or they put up all these stalls and all these charities in Princess Street Gardens. And I was there doing this compassion stall, and I promised you, about 20 women, now let me emphasize it was women and not the men, came up to me one by one asking for forgiveness for not writing to their sponsored child. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? I said this very gently and grace-filled, but I said, go and sin no more. Go home and write. If you write right now, you're forgiven. Okay then, and off they would run. Not one man came. What does that tell you? But about 20. So people do not write, but letter writing is so important. We can do it on the app now. There's an app. What we tend to do is we tend to almost send texts so they go out more frequently. It doesn't have to be a big, long-winded letter. It just could be that I'm praying for you. How are you doing? I hope school's going well. Whatever it might be, it's the only communication these children get. And if you sponsor Rose Cathy and you don't write her a letter, no one else will. So please, I encourage you. Let's look at the next slide. This 19 girls and 19 boys. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Next slide. So this tells you that 239 medical checks, 53 Bibles. They give their Bibles away. That's why there are 53 Bibles and 38 children. 10,500 nutritious meals and more than 42,000 hours spent in the projects as a result of what you guys do. And the next one. Wow, in the last 12 months, people in this church, this is not about our tithes that we give on a Sunday. This is individuals amongst us who have decided to support children in developing countries. We have given £22,000. My goodness me, that is absolutely amazing. Thank you. And the next slide. Just take a moment, please, just to look at these faces. See if you recognize. I was doing a prayer meeting at a Baptist church in Glasgow just a few weeks ago, and I put the slide up like that. And I said to the people, can you tell me, which is your child? And couples were starting to argue. No, it's that one, the third one in. No, it's not. It's the fifth one in. But see if you can see any children you recognize. These 38 children's lives have been changed. And I have to tell you, it's an absolute privilege to sponsor. And at the end of the service today, I'll be at the table, and listen, if the Holy Spirit stirs you to sponsor, if you sponsor already and you want to sponsor another child, then God bless you. Come and do it. Come and make a difference. And the incredible thing is, I just want to tell you that if you sponsor a child today, that child will know by Wednesday or Thursday this week. Isn't that amazing? So if someone sponsors one of the children I've got here, the 13 children I've got here today, then by Wednesday or Thursday, they will know that they've got a sponsor. Wow. And the next slide. I love that boy with his missing teeth. I use that slide everywhere I go. And the next slide is a slide about the old QR code, I think, if it's coming up next. There's a piece of paper on your chair if you want to sponsor. There are more children from the same projects that the church currently sponsor in Haiti on these QR codes, or if you prefer to come and see me at the end. But let me finish by just saying this, if I may. That when I go out to churches now, I lay all the children I'm taking to the church out on the floor, and I pray over every child. Because I don't want these kids to be a number. I don't want them to be a statistic. I want them to be a face that I would remember when I'm standing up here in different churches. There's a video we're going to close with before I hand back to Aaron. And then this is an English couple who sponsor, and they're really highlighting the importance of the relationship between me and my sponsored child. My wife and I sponsor a number of children, and I had the privilege in going out to Uganda to meet one of those children. Oh my goodness. It was just, I can't even describe how powerful it was to know that this child looks to Muriel and I as their kind of adoptive parents. And that's true for every single one of you that sponsor. But if you're stirred today, listen to this video and watch this video. And if you want to sponsor a child, I'll be at the table. And thanks for listening to me. Can we put that video up, please? Thank you. Bless you.
I believe it's all about the one. If we can make a difference in one person's life, then who knows what that can lead to.
We take so much for granted in the Western world, and you know, when you visit a compassion child and you see firsthand, you realise what is important.
We're not able to see our compassion girls grow. We have photographs of them. Those photographs are side by side with our own daughters and our grandchildren.
Violet was quite little, and now she's 14 and growing up fast, so it's going to be quite exciting to actually see her in person.
This is, for us, a dream come true, to visit the girl that has been in our prayers, on our hearts, in our thoughts for 11 years.
When the family gets a visit, it is actually a blessing. The child meets the sponsor, and the child can never imagine I'll ever see this person physically, apart from photos and communication in letters. But when there is this sponsor coming physically, wow, it's just breathtaking, and it's a blessing to the families.
When we were maybe 50 meters away, we could hear them. The windows were up, but we could still hear them singing their hearts out. She appeared out of nowhere. I didn't see her coming, but she just threw herself at me. And I don't think I will ever forget that moment. It was like we'd known each other ever since she was born, and that we'd been apart for so long.
You're not just sponsoring some random person who you never know anything about. Each child is known by somebody. They are cared for, they are looked after.
I think about the staff, how passionate they are to see these kids thrive and flourish.
We want to add value on these children's lives. That means economically, spiritually, they know what to do.
we only play a small part, but to see the day-to-day running of the project that provides hope, Violet, I will always remember that and remind myself that she's being cared for.
Looking at each person on that photograph that plays a part in Violet's life, and I think that was the thing that struck me. You know, it's not just us. Each member of staff plays a part in making sure she thrives, making sure she reaches her full potential, and that's what really struck me. It will really be treasured.
I realise that I can't change the world, but I know Linda and I can make a difference in more children's lives. The only thing that I know for sure is that our lives are not going to be the same again.
Thank you so much, Vine Church. I can't believe the figures that you have given to Jesus. Whoever gives a cup of water to a child in my name gives to me. We talk about giving to God. When you give to the poor, you're actually giving to God. Why? Because they're his children, whom he dearly loves. And anyone who blesses and looks after your child has blessed you. So I say thank you. I and Lindsay sponsor 3 children in Haiti, Jean, Alexis, and Clara. I don't say that to boast, and I'm aware and sensitive to the fact not everybody can sponsor a child. You're maybe not in a position to sponsor one child just now. Maybe you don't have a job, maybe you don't have enough money, and we're sensitive to that. Well, here's what I would like you to do if you're not in a position to sponsor a child right now, or a second child, or a third child. Some of you may be. And we would just simply ask you, just say, Father, what would you have me do? Sacrifice is a great thing. When you spend more on others, you spend less on yourselves. You spend less on new shirts, new jeans, new trainers, new lattes and Starbucks and that kind of stuff. That's good. It's a good spiritual discipline to, you know, our Father abounds in generosity. So we would ask you just to simply pray in your heart and be open. God, would you have me sponsor a child? And simply go and speak to Adrian at the table, have a look at the profiles, scan that QR code, take a profile away with you, ask any questions you have for Adrian. Have you got any concerns about how much money actually goes to the child? I can assure you my brother will have made sure that as much percentages of your pound will go to the child, because that was one of his peeves, was when a charity takes a lot of your money and uses it on admin. So he ensures, as Compassion UK has for many years, that the maximum percentage, Adrian, what percentage? More than 80% of the money. You compare that to a lot of other charities. So, but here's what I would like each one of us to do. It's Compassion Sunday. So I'm going to ask you to do something very easy and simple. It might take you 5 minutes max, maybe 3, maybe 2. Regardless of whether you have a child or not, you can share or not. It's Compassion Sunday. So on Compassion Sunday, here's what I simply want you to do, is to be an ambassador for compassion. And this is what I did. I basically searched for a compassion video, or I took one of my photos of my compassion child. I stuck it on my Facebook page and say, one of the things I love doing is sponsoring a child, and knowing that I get to change a child's life. If anybody out there is interested, you can do the same. Just send me a little message or drop a message below, and I'll help you get started. One man got in touch, one man, not a woman, a man is on this occasion, so we'll stick up for the men today. Maybe it's because all the men write letters. I doubt it, Adrian, I doubt it. They're just slower to repent. So men, get writing letters. I'm convicted. It's been a wee while. One man got in touch, said, I would absolutely love to do that. How do I do it? And I said, here's the website. Here's the details. You can go here. I've got a man called Adrian that will help you. And he sponsors a child. And it was so easy. And that was like, took me 2 or 3 minutes, and a child's life was changed. I'm going to ask each of you, I know you're busy, But when the darkness increases, let's shine a light. Let's shine a light. Yeah? There's a lot of darkness just now, heaviness. Let's shine a light. Let's shine a light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Come on. This little light of mine. I can't hear you. Come on. This little light of mine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Come on, one more time, let's go. This little light of mine. Louder, come on. This little light of mine. You're not bad singers. This little light of mine. What are you going to do? I'm going to shine, let it shine. Come on, let your little light shine. It's time to let it shine, 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 shine. By sponsoring a child, visit Adrian at the table. Take 2 or 3 minutes on your Facebook post, please. Even if you don't sponsor a child, share a story, share a video, share something, and make it as easy and simple as possible for somebody to sponsor a child.